All right, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. It's Monday. It's time for Master Motivation. My name is Jason Flame, and I am joined by my guest today, Miss Nikki Lian. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I was watching your face during the little commercial there, and please don't critique that drop kick because it was terrible, but it's okay. so Hey, we got a lot to talk about today, and I hope that everybody
Yes.
watching is going to jump in and throw some comments on there. So please, if you're watching, throw a comment in the box, and we'll bring it up. If you have any questions for Nikki, I'm sure she'll be happy to answer it. And just a reminder to everybody. The purpose of this podcast and of this video, why I'm doing this back in 2020, as we all sat home a lot and did things on Zoom. I was kind of feeling like I wanted to look for something in 2021 to bring back that spark, bring back that flame, bring back that energy, motivation, and just kind of highlight some people because as I was thinking through it, there was a lot of people that I would follow them on Facebook, social media, Instagram, in life, and be inspired. And so, why not highlight those people and bring those people out? And Nikki, you came up on the list. You know, for me,
Truly honored.
here's the deal. So I'm watching the video and I'm thinking of different things of how we've connected over the years, and of course, one is the pro wrestling thing. I think the very first time I went to an MPW show, you were wrestling on that show. So that was, I think, the very first time I saw you, and then of course my wife got involved in. Your classes over at CKO, so a little bit more there, and then
Mhm.
just kind of here and there throughout the years. I'm truly inspired by someone, a strong female role model that promotes positive things in the community. There's a lot of things that you do in the community that I don't think people know about, so I want to make sure we talk about that. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start from your childhood and kind of work from there, and we'll see where we go.
Oh wow. Okay. My childhood. Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, as you can tell. My accent is still there. But I was always an athlete. I was always a student athlete. I was always out at the park playing basketball or going to a game or being active. And through my years, it's always been sports, sports, sports. When I, hi Angela, when I was going through high school, junior high school was always my passion. I was very lucky to obtain a scholarship to college. This is like the short version because I can really start rambling. And then right after college, I jumped in my car and I drove to California. So that's that. I mean, my childhood was great. It was full of a lot of stuff to do. I think that's where I get my personality from. I'm constantly going, going, going. But yeah, I mean, that was the gist of it. It was school, sports, and that was pretty much it.
Well, talk about the influence that your parents had on your life, growing up, and things that they instilled in you. And I've never met your parents, so I don't know. So maybe people would want to know where this personality comes from in you.
So my friends actually have a nickname for my mother. We call her Ming Ming because in that movie Elf, she's very short. She's like I'm 5'9", she's like 5 feet, and the head elf in the movie Elf was named Ming, so we call her Ming. All of my friends call her Ming. She's 70 years old. You wouldn't even know. She's gonna kill me for saying that, but she is constantly on the go. Like Nikki, like when am I coming out there? Because I gotta plan my, pickleball convention or whatever she's doing. Like she helps seniors, like not even realizing like she is a senior. Um, she does community theater. She works at the food pantry. So I think it's like it's just like that constant go, and I definitely get it from her. Yeah, so I was raised by my mom. My dad wasn't in the picture. My dad was a I learned a lot from my dad now in retrospect, but he was a Vietnam veteran. He always had a drug problem, in and out of my life, that kind of thing. But you learn to deal with people and controversy and things like that. So they both actually, in their different way, taught me a lot.
What
Yeah.
what was it like? What was it like not having well, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but not having that strong male role model in your life? How did that
It's
affect you?
funny. It's funny because I did have male role models. It's weird because when you're growing up in a household, you always think like it's normal, right? So
Hmm.
you don't realize how like effed up stuff is until you get older and you look at it, you know, through a different eye, a set of eyes. But I had my mom was my dad pretty much. My mom, when I was 5, put me on t-ball and she was the coach. And I don't even think my mom knows how to hit a baseball. You know what I mean? So she faked it. I had uncles. I had my brother. So it wasn't like in my mind, even when I think back, like I see some great dads out there. Like you're so involved in your kids' lives. But I honestly never really felt anything missing. I
Mm.
think the pieces were put in there from other family members. And you know, when I was getting recruited for college games, my uncle would take me to different schools to check out the schools, and he would be really
Hmm.
involved in that. um my brother used to make me stand at home plate, and he used to throw baseballs at me just to toughen me up. So things like that. So I don't
now,
think I actually like missed out.
now your brother's older or younger?
He's a year older. Yeah, and
Year
I
older. Okay.
actually do. I have another half brother that I just met a few years ago. Yeah, that was my dad. Who's yeah, he's a couple years younger than me. So I have an older and a younger brother now.
And you've been out in California for probably more than half your life by now. How much different is California than growing up on the East Coast? What was that
Yeah,
transition like for you?
that's like it's like super scary for me to even think that because I'm a New Yorker. I'll always be a New Yorker. But I've been almost half my life. I've been out here. When I moved out here, I thought it was going to be like New York. I thought it was a culture shock for me.
Hmm.
These weird people are saying hello to me at the 7-Eleven, and I don't even know them, being really nice. The freeway, just the freeways in general, there's like 6 lanes on the freeway. I mean, New York City is made up of 5 boroughs. So you have those communities, you know,
Right.
and Brooklyn, everybody knew each other and you live down the street from each other. Here you have to drive like 30 miles just to go to your friend's house. So
Hmm.
I did have to get used to it. My car had to get used to it. But I can't imagine coming from like a small town in Kentucky and then moving to LA opposed to like growing up in New York and getting some street smarts before,
Hmm.
you know, moving out here. So there's definitely a difference.
And talk about getting the scholarship to go to college. Talk a little bit more about high school and then right into college.
So it was interesting. High school, my passion was basketball, but I played softball as well. I was just good at it, you know. It was fun in high school, you know, sports are fun in high school. I started getting recruited probably when I was a junior in high school. I was getting a lot of letters for both, mostly
Hmm.
basketball. Which was good because that's kind of the direction I wanted to go to. I didn't want to continue softball in college. But I did get offered a softball scholarship to a Division 1 college. And you know, back in high school, you have this ego of like, oh, you got to go to a D1 school, right? Like D2,
Hmm.
that doesn't count. Like my whole life, I've been like training to go to a D1 school and like sit on the bench. But a college offered me a softball scholarship, and then I wound up walking. I was the only walk on the basketball team.
Hmm.
Um, but I never got any playtime, right? So they admired how hard I worked. I was a small like I should be a small forward, but I in high school I was always the tallest girl, so I was trained as a big girl, so like a power forward center. So that was my biggest issue too. Um, so I went to Wagner College for year 1, and then a Division 2 school reached out to me, and I was like, I just want to play. I just want to play basketball. So they wound up giving me a basketball softball scholarship. Right. I
Hmm.
played both for my sophomore year, and then I kind of dropped the softball and just went full force with basketball, because softball really wasn't my passion. Once you get to college, it almost becomes like a job,
Right.
like it is, because they're paying you to do what you do. They're paying you to watch video at 5 a.m. and show up to training twice a day and 2 a days and stuff. So by my senior year, I was just like, all right, let's finish up this year. And I just kind of threw everything into basketball.
And so what was your goal? Was your goal to go further from college with basketball?
No, so my goal was actually to get my free education and then get in my car and drive to LA to go to wrestling school. So probably from when I was like I said, basketball was always my passion. But
Hmm.
once you get to college, it gets very like, you know, the coaches and the play, it's different. It's not, it's not summer camp anymore. So it kind of fizzled out for me. Actually, when I moved out here, I think it was like all through my wrestling career, I never picked up a basketball again. I just kind of replaced,
Hmm.
one passion for another. So I didn't love it as a job. I loved it as a sport.
Right, right, right. Well,
Yeah.
before we get into talking about that move to California and that new passion, or that other passion, I should say, where do you think your work ethic came from? Because to play at a Division 1, Division 2 school, playing basketball full time, all the way through, you got to have some drive. You got to have that, like you said, the passion is important, but you got to have the work ethic. What was it that taught you that work ethic?
I don't know. Sometimes you're just born with it. I mean, I was always pushed to do things and supported. When I did do things, I liked the pats on the back. I liked being in the newspaper. I liked being number one. You know what I mean? It was my ego that was driving me to work
Hmm.
harder. And a lot of things, it's got its pros and cons, because a lot of things, if you're good at a lot of things, you don't necessarily concentrate on that one thing where you really push yourself.
Hmm.
But athletics just came natural to me. I was a big girl, I was a powerful girl. So going to practice, if you're living your purpose and you are, passionate about things, you're looking forward to training and to getting better and to
Hmm.
waking up at 5:30 in the morning to shoot hoops in your driveway, things like that. So I think it's just kind of just because I love what I did, and I wanted to do it all the time. I think that's where
Right.
it came from. And then the school thing was just kind of, I wasn't a great student. Like, I was an okay student. I kind of like, I mean, college, thank God they don't put your GPA on your college degree, but do they now? I don't even know. But I always had to do school to do sports, right? So I couldn't go to practice if I didn't get my homework done or things like that. So
Right.
that was very like, you know
Well, so let's talk about the drive to California. So you finished up school, got your degree, you hopped in your car, you literally drove from New York to California.
Yeah, so I worked through the summer. So in August I got my degree. It was 2002. I had a little Volkswagen Jetta at the time, and I literally stuffed like everything that I could that I needed in my Jetta. And I just drove. One of my friends came with me, and we just drove. And got to LA. I already had rented in a little studio apartment in Torrance. I think it was like $600 a month or something ridiculous like that. And that's actually when my fitness career started, because I did get my certifications. I got a job at LA Fitness and Bally's, if, dating
Right.
myself. So I was training people and doing that kind of thing. And I was kind of all set. Like, I had a plan. Like, I didn't just like say, okay, I'm here, like make it happen. Um, the wrestling school I trained at was called Ultimate University. I saw it on a documentary and I thought it was amazing. And it was a developmental territory for the WWE. And I knew that's where I was going to go. So I already had met the Ballard brothers. I enrolled in the school. I started training 4 or 5 days a week. So like, I had a plan before I went there. I didn't kind of like wing it.
So
So
what sparked that whole passion of wanting to come to California and go to a professional wrestling school? I mean, obviously you're a professional wrestling fan growing up,
Yeah.
right? So, like a lot of us were.
Yeah. So first of all, like we not grew up, but like when wrestling, like the Attitude Era. So like there were all these up and coming women that were just kicking ass. Like Lita was like unbelievable to me. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to be like Lita. So I think the biggest thing was in high school, I never got to be in theater. And I'm very dramatic. I love acting. And I never, got to do that because I was always at practice. Right. So I used to be part of the Shakespeare Club and I would do that thing, when I got a chance, but I never really got that out of me. And I just thought pro wrestling was this like tremendous, like, wow, you get to do flippy things and beat people up and like act at the same time and like have a gimmick and like, be very extra. So I think that was the biggest appeal to me was the theatrics plus the athleticism, you know?
So around what year was that you went to Ultimate University?
So it was 2002. So,
2002.
yeah, John Cena had just gotten signed. I think Victoria had just gotten a contract. Frankie Kazarian was there, the Ballard brothers,
Right.
Samoa Joe, Spanky. Yeah,
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 so
all
I
those
don't
guys.
I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, and I'll share this just because the story kind of goes together. But I had a very similar goal. I can remember, right before, right after I got married, it was like that's what I wanted to do. I have always done martial arts my entire life, but I wanted
Right.
to be in the WWF at that time, and so
Mhm.
I went to Ultimate University as well one day. As a matter of fact, I remember going back and forth with Big Schwag. Like I don't know if I emailed
Swag.
him or what. I don't know what I did. I don't know how I got in touch with him, but I remember I think we actually wrote back and forth. Well, sent me an application. He said, "Come down." I go. I show up. I walk in. I go with two of my friends. I walk in the school, and I kind of look around, and I'm there to train, and I just freeze. Right? I'm just like, what the f am I doing? Like, and so I forget who it was that walked over and said, "We're starting right now. Are you training?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just watching." Right? And I literally sat there for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then walked out. I never went back. And then it wasn't until
Really?
it was like 10, 12 years later that I ended up meeting Paul, and I told him the story, and I actually met Schwag, told him this whole story, and he's just like, "That's crazy," right? So anyway, it just kind of goes with this whole thing, right? Um,
Right, right.
and it all comes full circle. So anyway,
So funny.
so you go to the school, you start training, you're training with all kinds of people. Of course, I'm knowing the names you're talking about. Most
Yeah.
people watching probably have no idea who we're talking about. But then, how long did you train there, and what happened next?
So it's interesting. I think I'm going there and I'm going to just develop this skill, create my gimmick, and then one day I'll get signed and work for Vince McMahon. It was really interesting being there because Rick Bassman, the owner of the school, I'm not going to say he didn't like me, but because I mean, I worked my ass off. So like I was in training, every single training, beginners class, like I'd be there, I'd, be killing my body, killing it. And he was never into like, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm rough around the edges, I'm not like, I wasn't in perfect shape, like I don't know what perfect is, but I wasn't in, you know in his mind, like he was pulling in these Hooters models, right? And then he'd
Mhm.
go give them a tryout. So it was kind of like, okay, but I just kept working. I remember one day, this Japanese promotion came in to do tryouts at UPW, and he wouldn't let me try out. Like I wasn't ready, whatever the reason. And they even had like an odd amount of women. So anyway, after the tryouts, I asked one of my friends who was training with me, I said, let's get in the ring. Let's just roll around. I just want to get in the ring. So we started rolling around, da da da. You have Rick with his two little models on the side, like trying to pitch them. They didn't even wrestle, and he's trying to pitch them to these Japanese promoters. And I'm rolling in the ring, and they just kept going, who's that? Because, big ass blonde, like gringa, like they love that shit in Japan. So it was
Mhm.
kind of like more towards, no, but this. And they're like, no, what's that? So I wound up getting asked to go out there just through that. And it was just kind of, the Ballard brothers were great. Like they get me so many bookings, and I met so many people. Navajo Warrior, who's from Arizona, who he was just a tremendous part of my, wrestling career. He would give me my mat. Like, there's so many promoters that actually helped me. And then the place that I'm paying to be, and I'm, like, I'm part of this school, was kind of like, no, but look at this, instead. So, and I'll say it, like, I get it. I get that's what the business was, but it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So I kind of started to branch out. I discovered Lucha Libre, that's my thing. Did a lot of Mexican wrestling, went to Rev Pro, learned a lot, met Los Luchas. So, and that was like kind of like paved my way into like doing other things. So it was interesting. So long story short, I never got my WWE contract through Ultimate University.
Right.
But I did learn a lot. They had great instructors. I met a lot of great people. So, yeah.
And so you wrestled in Japan, you wrestled in Mexico, you wrestled did you wrestle somewhere else?
Lebanon.
Lebanon, there you go.
Lebanon.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what was that like, just kind of going to the different countries and getting to do something that you were having? What was like the language barrier obviously is kind of a challenge, and just the different customs and cultures.
Yeah.
What was the whole experience like for you? How did it help you grow?
It like, I tell people this all the time, when you meet people that are kind of like closed-minded and don't have a lot of compassion. I'm like, I'm so lucky that I got to travel to these different countries and see how these people live, and meet some great people, and it just made me have more compassion and empathy towards people in general. But Mexico was always great. Like, I understood, I understood Spanish. I can say, things to make a match, but I couldn't really converse. And I'm kind of
Mhm.
disappointed in myself, because I worked there so much and I never like picked up the language. But Cassandro was a huge mentor in my wrestling world, and he would take me on tours in Mexico, and he would, introduce me to people, and just like, he taught me so much. But they'd see this big white girl coming in, and Americans are like this, like, spotlighted, they see a lot of like girls that can't really work. But once I went in there, even Cassandra was like, how did you learn to roll like that? Like, how did you learn to fly like that? And I'm like, Gil's Garage in LA, like this underground, like, lucha place that I used to go to. So Mexico was always awesome. I got to work with a lot of great people. Lucha Vavoom was like a huge promotion that I worked for. And then Lebanon was like super interesting, because I'm half Lebanese, and going out there and seeing, I actually toured with Gangrel and Kiara Dillon, which they were married at the time, and then Raj Sahota from Canada. We were like a little clique for 10 days. And it was just, they made myself and Monique like share a room, because you couldn't have like a male and a female like in the same hotel room.
Mhm.
We were the first intergender match ever there. So women being in the ring with men was like unheard of.
Mhm.
Um, and it was like, it's a beautiful country. But then, we did a show where we're walking out to the ring, and there's these people dressed up in their military garb with guns, like, standing there, like, and you don't think about shit like this. You're just like, yeah, I'm wrestling in Lebanon, and it's like, bottles are getting thrown at you. Like, these people don't, it's just a completely different culture. We went to downtown Beirut, and I had like these like denim short shorts on, and they're like, you can't get out of the car. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, fuck you, I can get out of the car, and it's like, no, maybe you should stay in the car, and it's just like, why? Like, it's so weird. And then it makes you appreciate like being a woman in the United States. Like, yeah, hashtag me too, but we do get a lot of opportunities that, a lot of women don't see yet in 2021. So
Right.
it's very humbling, and it's very eye-opening.
And so your wrestling career kind of tapered off a little bit, correct? And then and so take us, on the I know you've been training again a little bit. I've heard, by the way, I've heard you've been back in the ring.
It's just a
So
rumor.
yeah, so we'll see if there's a comeback. But as things were tapering down for you, you started having some, some other passions, and talk about, your business and how you got that started.
Yeah, so myself and my friend Disco, Mike Disco Machine, we
Hmm.
always talk about this, how no one really can leave wrestling unless they find another passion, like kind of how I left basketball and then I went into wrestling, and it's just kind of like that. But wrestling was really good to me. Like like I said, I had some great experiences. I always said if I didn't have a contract, if I wasn't working for the Fed by my 30th birthday, then I just quit, right? Everyone has those goals.
Mm.
And long story short, on my 30th birthday, I'm sitting in a trailer doing like extra work for some stupid WWE commercial. And I'm just like, okay, like I get it, So those last couple of years were great. That's when I traveled the most. But then I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to grow up. Not grow up in a sense, but wrestling's also very ego driven, and I didn't like the person I was becoming, and it was, being hard on my looks and like, things like that, and I felt like I just like wasn't really living my purpose. So I wasn't sure if I was going to come back to it. um Cassandro did his last show at Lucha Vavoom, and something clicked in me. Like, I'm probably not going to be working here anymore, and this is where I love to work. So it was kind of like, you know what? I had my last match at Lucha Vavoom with my best friend Michelle Morgan. It was a good match, and I think that I was like, I think this is just it for me. I'm not gonna announce my retirement. Like I'm not gonna do that, because I think that's kind of like closing doors for you. Like you never know what's going to happen again. And I bought into a franchise, and as you know, I mean, owning a gym and owning a program you got to have 2 feet in the door. You have to have 2 feet in. You can't just have like
Right.
1 foot in the door. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it ended. It was a happy ending. I was on top. So I just kind of was like, all right, let me go out like this. And I went out quietly.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
unusual.
Right.
In the wrestling
Right.
world, because
Yeah.
everybody's got to retire 5 times, right? I mean, just
Right.
for the
Right. Right. Right.
extra, that extra little ego,
Mhm.
I think, like you said. So yeah, absolutely. Having your own business, you got to be 100% in. So how did you get involved with excuse me, CKO, and why did you choose that? You got the physical background, obviously. You had the certifications as well, to be a trainer. Um, what made you want to become a business owner, of all things? Because it's pretty
So,
difficult.
yeah, who knew, right? I just wanted to teach kickboxing, like who knew?
Yep.
But all through my wrestling days, I actually had a boxing trainer, Patrick Outlaw, and he trained the shit out of me to make sure I was in shape. So I love the workout. I was in the best shape in my life when I was training with him, wrestling and him. And I just loved the workout. And then my other coach had this hot idea that I should fight. I got in the ring and sparred with some girl that was like 19 years old, and she beat the shit. She was like half my size, and she like beat the shit out of me. And I was like, I don't like this, but I love the workout. I think the workout's very empowering. It's great. It makes you feel good. So, maybe I'll just, share this with people.
Hmm.
So my brother actually owned a nutrition store at the time in Brooklyn, and it was 3 doors down from CKO Bay Ridge, which because CKO is a franchise. He's like, Nick, you gotta come check this out, because it's like these people are crazy in there. They're hitting these heavy bags. They come out. There's a ton of people. They love it. It's like a cult. And I'm like, all right, well, I looked up CKO. There was one in California, in San Diego. So drove down there, took the class, fell in love with it, and then it kind of rolled out from there. It took me a couple of years. Like it took me a while I was like, I got to make my business plan. I got to find money. I have to, figure this out. But right from there, like it kind of got got the ball rolling, and like, this is what I want to do. And I had no idea how to run a business. So I'm glad I did go with the franchise for sure.
Yeah, you know,
For
well, so
sure.
it's like you said, you loved it, right? You fell in love with the workout and the way it made you feel and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
you know, I can relate to that because I grew up doing martial arts. I love martial arts, and I was like, hey, I love teaching and I love training, so I'm just gonna open a
Right.
school. I mean, I had zero business plan, zero money in the bank. I was 19 years
Right.
old, knew nothing, and
Yeah.
you know, you just kind of make it work. But
Right.
what were some of your challenges? Not only as a business owner, but you know, it's in a what I would think most people probably think. You know, when you think of boxing, you think of men, and so now you're this strong female, you know, owning a boxing gym. And I've seen you comment a couple times on people that give you crap, right? And it's like you give it right
Yeah, it's
back to them. I
ridiculous.
have no, I have
Yeah.
no, no doubt. But you know, what is that like? Because I know that you're also all about, you know, empowering women, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, just it literally like boggles my mind every time someone comes in looking for the owner or the manager, and I'm just like, I'm right here, like, or like, where is he? It's like, okay. Anyway, so it's funny because like probably 80% of my members are women. They're
Right.
they don't want to they want to get a good workout, and they're awesome and they're savages, and it's really good to see. I forgot what the question was though. Sorry.
No,
What was
my
the
question. There was probably a lot of questions. That's why I confused you.
Yeah.
Um, what was it like opening a business and the struggles of opening a business,
Okay.
and on top of that, like I said, being a female in what many people might consider a male-dominated sport?
I think first of all, I think wrestling gave me a really thick skin because I had to deal with a lot of men in the locker room, and just respect, and like, gaining respect like that.
Hmm.
But it's not necessary. I know I throw it out there a lot. It's being a boss. It's not being a woman, it's just being a boss, and really having this vision of what you want and then kind of going for it despite any obstacles. I think one of the worst things was finding a spot. Honestly, I looked in LA for a year and a half, and there's parking permits, and there, parking rules, and oh, there's already a gym in this parking lot, and oh, you got to find like Ralph's parking lot, which is like no less than 10,000 a month. You know what I mean? So it was really trying to find space, and that's how I
Hmm.
I wound up in Simi Valley, because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just want to open. So I got really lucky, and my real estate guy was like, why don't you just look and see me? It's like a great little spot. So I came out here, and sure enough, we found a place, and it was good.
And prior to opening out in Simi Valley, did you know this area well at all? I mean, you know, when you moved out from New York, you were in Torrance, and so that's further into the, you know, the south, where you know,
Yeah.
now you come into the Ventura County area. You know, again, probably a little bit of culture shock too. Ventura County is a
Right.
little different
Right.
than, you
It
know,
is.
the
Yeah.
other counties surrounding. So um, did you have some hesitation, you know, coming into this area? Because like you said, you looked in LA for quite a while.
It's interesting because I lived in Van Nuys at the time. I had my condo was in Van Nuys, so it wasn't like that far of a drive. But I
Hmm.
was negotiating a lease in Glendale, in Montrose, and it was taking forever, and it was draining, and it was expensive because I had to pay for like parking, like all this stupid shit. And I remember my friend Julio taking me hiking one day at Rocky Peak, and I'm looking over at all the houses and everything, and I'm just like, man, I probably should have looked more in Simi Valley. I probably should have looked a little more. And then
Hmm.
sure enough, it fell through. The lease fell through. It was shady. So, I came back to it, but it was kind of like I was like meant to be here.
Right.
I know it's a little more, it's not as saturated as LA, but it's a little slower, but it's good. It's been great,
And you've
and
been there.
my
You've been there
landlord's
how long?
great. So
How
so
long have
we
you been
just
there?
we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary in March. So
Hmm.
we've been here 5 years, just renewed a lease for another 5 years. So yeah, so we plan on staying here for a little bit.
And then, obviously, it took a few years to kind of build things up, and then you get smacked with the COVID situation as far as businesses. And
Yeah.
so, you guys immediately went to Zoom and going outdoors when you could. Just talk a little bit about your struggles and working through that, because obviously, anybody in the fitness industry, anybody that owns a business, struggled over the last year. What were some of the things that you struggled with, and what are some of the things that you learned?
So, one thing I love about my franchise, it's very community based. The corporate was there right away. They had no idea what was going on. They never dealt with it, but they stayed in touch. So Joe Andrula, the CEO, is very solution based. He's like, okay, this shit just hit the fan. What do we do? Right.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how my mentality of running this gym has worked. Every time you run into a wall, like, what do? You can't just kind of like curl up in the fetal position and just pray that it's not happening and go on a fishing trip, So from day one, I think that, and my staff is awesome. Like, my trainers are awesome. I'm right now sharing space with Josh and Jennifer, who own the nonprofit Neuroboxing, but he also teaches at CKO. So we did all the Zoom stuff. We went on Facebook. We were like, okay, how could we stay connected to our members? Because yeah, like, we got to keep the doors open, but at the end of the day, they have to get their workouts in, like,
Hmm.
especially our neuroboxers.
Right.
So, and then I kind of thought, okay, like, you don't panic, because it was like the whole world is dealing with this right now, right? So it's like, it's not just you. It's not just you have to close your doors, you can't run. The whole
Right.
world was dealing with it. So it was kind of like, what can we do?
Hmm.
So we wound up going online. We didn't know we were going to be closed 3 months, right? But we went right away. We formed a Facebook group. We went into like a challenge. Everybody was like talking to each other and doing the workouts online, because we kind of built it as a challenge. And then, you know what? Some people didn't. And we've done, I hate asking for stuff, but at the end of the day, we've done so much for the community. When I sent that email out saying, hey guys, look, like, we have to pay our rent. And if you freeze or cancel your memberships right now, like, we won't be able to do it. And I
Hmm.
would probably say 75% of our members continue to pay over those times. So it was like, a mix of everything, like staying solution based, staying connected, talking to my landlord, not ignoring him,
Hmm.
having a really good relationship with him, having a relationship with the chamber. The city gave me a lot of shit for some stuff that was unfair, and just having those connections and almost like everything you worked for, that you don't
Hmm.
realize, like, I'm gonna need this because a pandemic's about to hit. Like, obviously you don't realize that. You just do things because that's what you want to do. Because that's what you're supposed to be doing. It all kind of added up, and then like helped at the end, and that's how we stayed open, and we just kept pushing forward. Like I said, I have a great team. I have amazing members. I mean, I had members, all my tents blew away one day when we were outside.
Uh-huh. I remember that.
And yeah, and then like my members got together and just like bought a bunch of new tents, because I was just like bleeding money at that point. Things like not being able to be in my gym and shooting, we have to have the neuro boxers on a big screen so we can see what they're doing, right? My neuro
Right.
boxers are mostly Parkinson's. um wasn't allowed to be in my gym by myself in front of a camera, so I had my trainer out in the back alley teaching neuroboxing, and it was just such ridiculous times. And I wound up posting a video on Facebook, just venting, not even realizing that it was about to explode. I had all of my members not even like ask me, but calling the mayor, calling the city, like this.
Uh-huh.
It was insane. And I didn't realize what like the CKO army I had behind me. And it was awesome. But I think it's like, it's karma. Like, you give and you get, and that's how the world works pretty much. You go with good intention, and when you're really in those it was hard. Like, it was hard. I'll
Mhm.
never know how we drag those bags in and out, every single day, 3 times a day in 100-degree weather. I don't know. But if people are going to show up for a workout, like, we're going to do it. So it was a community effort.
I think, you know, so I'm listening to you tell all being solution oriented, and I'm hearing your
Yeah,
story. And first of all, I 100% understand, because our business, you know, went
right.
through almost the identical situation. You know, but I can't help but think, you know, going back, because of course we both have the experience in the ring, that like if you're in the middle of a spot and someone f's up, you can't just stand there. Like
No, no.
everybody's watching you. You have to do something. You just have to make it work. And I just think that that's such a unique skill, because many people did freeze, many people
Yeah,
did give
yeah.
up, many people did just pack it in and go home. And you didn't. And you talk a lot about your team, and you talk a lot about your CKO army, and just the tribe that you've built. You know, talk a little bit about that too, because a lot of businesses, I think, struggle with building that culture. I know in the martial arts world, it's something that people really strive to build, that culture within your school. I don't think that it's ever by accident. I think that it's very intentional. So, talk about some of the things that you've done, and then I'd also like to touch on the neuroboxing after we finish that. But how did you build this culture within your school?
I think again, like I do give props to the franchise because they are very, they're just a giving franchise. We do things called punchathons. I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, what's a punchathon where we raise money? I think our first punchathon, we raised money for breast cancer. And then you kind of see it, you're learning and you're like, oh, we can do a Toys for Tots. Like, what does it take for me to put a box in my gym and send an
Hmm.
email blast out and say, hey guys, can you bring in, these gifts? And mostly everyone wants to help all the time. They're always like, like we just rented a new unit next door for your neuroboxing. We had one member paint the entire facility. We had another member come in and do the floors. Like, they want to help. People want to help. They want to have a purpose. So once we started just rolling those things out there, especially like we were a new gym, you can't spend a lot of money, right? But a lot of things don't cost a lot of money. Texting someone and checking in if they had a great workout, how was their day, things like that. I mean, it just seemed very like natural to do, sending a birthday card out, things like that. And it's just, it kind of just starts flowing. And then you get, other people that, oh, why don't we do this? And then one of the owners, CKO Warwick, CKO Newton in Jersey, is a veteran, and he's part of Team Red, White, and Blue. And he's like, well, I'm going to call every owner of CKO and I'm going to ask them if they can connect with their Team Red, White, and Blue chapters. So it's just kind of that. It was always that like vibe from the franchise and the other owners to kind of just keep giving, and that's how it happens. And then you create that community because they're like, this isn't just the gym. This isn't like, you want to create that experience when they come through. You don't, I Fitness 19, great place, but half the time they don't look up from their desk when you walk in and you check, you check in. But if I go to like a smaller boutique gym or martial arts or something, you get to know people, and
Hmm.
I think that's what people want. A lot of people, especially in times of quarantine, like they wanted that community because we were all
Right.
stuck at home.
Right.
So I think it just kind of, you get inspired from people. It kind of snowballs. You meet people and you're like, wow, this is like amazing. How can I be part of it? And I think that's just kind of how it all came together. A kid graduated from college with an honors degree. Like, we want to celebrate that. Like, yeah, he's a member, but we want to put that on Facebook or celebrate someone's birthday or anniversary or, things like that. So, or event that's coming up. So I think it kind of just feels natural to do when you're seeing these people every day. So
Well, you know, it just reminds me how important it is, and you're what you're saying, what I'm hearing is you put people before profits, right? I mean, hey,
mhm,
we're in
right.
business. We're in business, but it's people. It's the people within our business that really matter. And yes, I train at Fitness 19. I also train at EA Fitness. And there's a very
Yeah.
big difference between the
Mhm,
gyms in the culture. And I think
mhm,
everybody likes to belong to something. Everybody likes to
right.
belong. Everybody wants to be on a team. And the more that we can kind of cultivate that team, I mean, I talk to Paul all the time about MPW, and we always say that it's the island of misfit kids, because, like, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
it's just like, because you will not see the same people in MPW in any other locker room or anywhere else, right?
Mhm,
So
right.
it's
Mhm,
that unit of community, like you said, and people feeling like they belong. And so you've been able to build that, within your school.
Mhm.
You make people feel like they belong. The birthday cards, the recognition, again, people first, being people oriented.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so let's talk about the neuroboxing. How did you get involved in that? I mean, it's very unique. It's not something that a lot of gyms do. How did that even get started?
I actually I had a lot of, not a lot, but experience working with seniors because I used to teach at the senior center once a week when it was open pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed working with people and doing modified things and just seeing people move, and because I think, movement makes miracles and a lot of people don't move. So anyway, I actually, okay, the owners are Josh Ripley and Jennifer Parkinson. And I actually was following Jennifer Parkinson online or on my Instagram. So I would see some of her videos and things. And it's small world, Simi Valley. I'm part of the health and wellness committee at the chamber, and there was a dentist there one day, and his daughter worked for Jennifer and Josh, and he was like, "You have to see this program that they're running. It's amazing." And I'm like, "Cool. Like, here's my number. Tell her to contact me." And this girl was like, she a couple times and never contacted me. So one night, Jennifer Parkinson walked into my gym and to take a class. So I saw her name, and I was like, "Oh my God, I've been wanting to talk to you. Like, I follow you on Instagram." So we
Mm-hmm.
started chatting. And then sure enough, she's like, "Why don't you, and your trainer come down, like, let you just watch our classes." They were teaching in Agura at the time. And we went into this room of like 35 to 40 people with a debilitating chronic disease, and they were just killing it. And neuroboxing, so it's a wellness program. It's not just boxing, it's a wellness program for people with neurological disorders, so Parkinson's, MS, traumatic brain injury, dementia. And it's just movement and connection, and again, community. So it's not really just the workouts, it's the support groups and things like that. So we became an affiliate in 2000, I think 19. And then Josh, one of the owners, started helping me out with CKO because he had a lot of experience in gym, gym management. And then it kind of fell in. Then COVID happened, and it worked out where he wanted his own facility because they were renting space in Agura. So I was like, well, let's just find a space and split it. So now we're no longer an affiliate. We're sharing the gym with neuroboxing, and we also rented out 2,000 square feet a few doors down to run the support groups and things like that. And then I'll be using that space for birthday parties and small group training and stuff like that. So it became this like great relationship. But these people are so inspiring. Like I can't even begin to describe, like, please come see a class one day. Like they're just amazing. It's just kind of like, you think you have a bad day, like your hip hurts or something like that, and then it's like you have these people who are just like kind of suffering in silence, but like doing what they need to do to live their best life. So it's crazy.
Well, it's still sticking in my head. You said movement makes miracles. I think that's a pretty powerful statement. I don't know if that's a quote or just a tagline to
It's a
something, but that
hashtag.
it just
Hashtag.
it definitely rings in my ear, and I think that that's a pretty amazing way to describe it, because I have watched from the outside. I see your videos and
Mhm.
I see what you're doing. I just think that that's a pretty amazing thing. Because again, it's not something that you're going to see in your traditional gym for the most part. You're not going to
Right.
see that as something that's pretty typical. I want to move on just before we finish up and talk a little bit
Mhm.
about Team Red, White, and Blue, because you brought that up and you got involved in that program, and talk a little bit about that and its purpose.
So Team Red, White, and Blue is a veterans group that helps veterans transition from military life to civilian life through volunteer work, through social activity, and through physical activity. So it's a great group. Half are civilians, half are veterans. I'm not a veteran, I'm a civilian. But again, my buddy Brian, who owns a gym a CKO out in Jersey, New York, reached out to some of the owners and asked if we can host a class the third Saturday of every month. And I'm like, sure, like this is great. So so they started coming in, this is part of their physical. We were just hosting. And then the chapter captain at the time, his name was Dan Manrique. He was kind of like I got him, and he kind of got like his purpose was to give in life and to help people. So he would, he was the guy that if a veteran was having a crisis, he'd be there in a second. So, or if a person was having a crisis. So we started talking about, doing fundraisers and different things together, like as a gym and as a an organization. And then so we were working together for probably about a year or two. And then unfortunately we lost him in the borderline shootings. So at that time, I mean, he was the chapter captain. So he was kind of the glue that held everyone together. A lot of people stepped up to join, to make the Ventura County chapter stay alive. So that's when I was asked to be on the committee as the athletic director. So of course I'm going to say yes, right? So that's what I do. Like we volunteer, try to find things to do. It's a little it's interesting because I'm not a veteran and I'm trying to reach out to veterans because I feel like the best kind of counseling or just helping is when you really, really know the person. But I've met a lot of great people that, it's another way of understanding people more and having more empathy and seeing people from other parts of the universe, just kind of learning about them. So yeah, I mean, so we still host, we still, it's been hard. Everything's been virtual the past year, but we're hoping to really start building the program again someday soon.
I think that's great. I think it's really great to see that you use your business as a way to work within your community and serve in other areas. With the neuroboxing team, Red, White, and Blue. You talked about it's really simple to put a box out. For collecting Toys for
Right.
Tots or books. You say that so casually and so nonchalant, but I will tell you, as someone that also volunteers in our community, that it's amazing to me because I just don't understand why more people don't do it and why more people are not involved. And the only thing that I keep coming back with is, I look at myself, and I don't know if this is, where it comes from within you, but I can remember in my life having a hard time. Our family was not, well to do. We got a lot of help, and I always remember telling myself that if I was ever in a position to help later in life, I would absolutely do it.
Right.
And I keep going back to that. And so maybe that's the thing, is maybe there's so many people that had it, I don't know, maybe kind of easier, that they just don't see the value and the purpose behind it. But it always kind of baffles me that there's so much going on. There's so many ways to get involved, and not a lot of people do. But you're one of those people that sees that value and sees the the way that it helps people. I mean, when you see one of those guys come in for a neuroboxing class and you posted a picture of someone with the biggest smile afterwards, you just know that you made a difference. You just know that you made a difference, and I think that that's super, super important. So, hey, Nikki, thank you for coming on the show today and just chatting with me. And
that was
I
fun.
hope
It went fast.
yeah, I hope that everybody, I hope you guys got a lot out of that. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments. As we continue to wrap up, I just want to remind everybody, I do this every single Monday, and I would love to have you tune in and just meet some of the people that have inspired me and motivated me. Please take a moment to reach out to anybody that's ever inspired you and motivated you, and let them know what a difference that they've made. And here's one of my mentors right here, Mr. Cox. He says the 80-20 rule. 20% does 80% of the work. And that's true. That's true. I think that it's the 20% of us that are trying to pull in that
Right.
80%. But hey, listen, guys, coming up this week, actually, I have a special edition on Wednesday. I got Blake Foster. Blake Foster is one of the old school Power Rangers. He's a Tong Sudo black belt. He's one of training at Mr. Cox School right now. Just a cool dude, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his life and his background. And then in the rest of July, well, actually, I have one more in June. I have Mr. Bill Poet, Ronnie Camacho, Rafael Gomez, Rick Rando, and my business mentor, Mike Metzger, coming on in July. So please tune in, guys, and share these videos. But like I said, make sure to reach out to anybody that's ever inspired you or motivated you and let them know that they've made a difference. And I know that it will mean a lot to them. So, Nikki, thank you so much for all your
Thank
time, all
you.
your energy. And I hope to see you in the ring
Thank you.
again. I want to
Yeah.
see you at a Friday night
Mhm.
MPW show.
To be continued.
To be
We'll see.
continued. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you on Wednesday and then again next Monday. Take care, guys.
Awesome.
See
Bye.
ya.